They didn't hang her to kill her, they hung her to forget her, and they almost did. She was barely a woman, couldn't have been more than 20, stripped of everything but a tattered white dress that hung off her bones like scraps on a scarecrow, arms bound tight to a wooden beam in the center of Branson's main street. Skin raw, bruises black and purple spreading from her ribs down to her thighs. Her legs dangled lifeless, her feet caked in dust. The sun didn't just burn her skin. It branded her humiliation into the soil of the town. And no one said a damn word. Not the shopkeepers who sold whiskey by the barrel. Not the preacher who once preached about mercy. Not the sheriff who kept his badge polished, but his conscience filthy. They all saw her hanging there, and every one of them turned their eyes away. Some out of fear, most out of convenience. No one knew what she did. No one asked, but somebody influential wanted her gone, and that was enough. Then came the sound of hooves. Slow, deliberate. One horse, one man. Landon Mercer hadn't been seen in town since the funeral of his daughter. That was 9 summers ago. 9 long years since he walked away from law and order and chose silence over battling a system too corrupt to fix. But now he was back. Same hat, same piercing gaze. But something in him was quieter, colder. He rode straight past the general store, past the saloon, did. He paused until his horse stood 10 feet from her. He dismounted and stared. Around her neck was a tiny wooden cross carved by hand, the same one his daughter wore the day she died. He took one step close. She did cry, did scream. Her mouth barely moved. They all watched me die, that was all she said. But what Landon saw in her eyes, that wasn't death. That was something else. And what would you do if you were the only one left who actually gave a damn? Landon did hesitate. He reached up and cut her down like he was slicing through the past. Her body dropped forward into him, limp, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. No scream, no sound, just the weight of a soul left to rot in plain view. He wrapped his coat around her. She didn't resist, didn't even flinch, just stood there in his arms like a forsaken thing someone finally picked up. The entire town watched. No one stopped him. No one even blinked. That's what guilt looks like when it hides behind curtains. Landon lifted her onto his horse. She slumped against the saddle, head low, eyes half shut. He mounted behind her and rode without a word. His cabin sat past the ridge near a creek that had dried years ago. The ride felt longer than it was. He could feel her breathing, shallow, hesitant, like someone who did. T believed she was still alive. When they arrived, he did rush her inside, just let her sit on the porch, back against the post, like a wild animal you did. Want to startle? He handed her a tin of water. She stared at it as if she'd forgotten what drinking felt like. Then she took it slow and drank. That was enough for now. He sat down across from her and finally spoke. You got a name? She looked up, barely nodded. Layla, simple, quiet, like a name whispered through dust. Landon did say another word, but in his mind, something shifted. This one's just about doing the right thing. This was about unfinished business with a past that never really died. The folks who stayed silent that day, they hadn't forgotten her. And sooner or later, they'd come looking to reclaim that silence. He still remembered her hanging there. Dirt on her feet, dress torn, that cross around her neck that wasn't just injustice. That was a message. Landon spent the next 2 days keeping Layla alive. That was the only job that mattered. He cleaned her wounds, spoon-fed her broth, watched her chest rise and fall like it might stop any second. She didn't speak much, but her eyes were clearer now, less like glass, more like fire under the ash. Then, late on the 3rd day, a knock hit the cabin door. 3 sharp taps, not loud but firm. Landon opened it to find Elias Harlow. Tall, thick mustache, eyes like hardened stone. Used to be a deputy, now he just drank and stirred trouble. Town is asking questions, he said, regarding that girl. Landon did blink. Let them ask. Elias stepped closer. Sheriff Ain T2 please, says you're meddling. Landon kept his hand near the doorframe close to his rifle. Tell the sheriff if he wants to talk, he can ride up here himself. Elias snorted. That old lawman, his backbone broke years ago. He sends boys now. Boys with matches and bad tempers. Landon shut the door. Inside, Layla sat straighter than before. She heard everything. She looked at Landon, and for the first time, there was no fear in her eyes. I did steal anything? She said quietly. It was the mayor, son. He tried to take what he wanted. I fought back. Landon, his jaw tightened, not because he doubted her, because he did. The town had buried its guilt, and now it wanted to burn the evidence. He knew what had to be done. He reached under the bed and pulled out his old badge, still dented from the day he quit. He did. T wiped the dust off. Did. T need to. Sometimes justice doesn't need to shine, it just needs to show up. If you've stayed with this story this far, partner, hit that subscribe button now. You are going to want a front row seat for what comes next. Landon rode into town at first light. No coat, no rifle on display, just a faded badge clipped to his belt and a fire behind his eyes that hadn't burned in years. Lila sat behind him, hair tied back, chin lifted just enough to show she wasn't hiding anymore. The streets were quiet, too quiet. Folks peeked through shutters, but no one stepped outside. That is the thing about guilt, it as loud in private and silent in public. Landon stopped in front of the courthouse. The mayor's boy was there, leaning against a barrel like nothing had happened. Clean shirt, polished boots, smirk as oily as frying grease. "You bring her here to finish what she started?" he said. Lila dismounted, steady, calm. Then she pulled something from her pocket, a silver brooch bent in half, blood dried along the edge. She held it out. "This was mine." He took it. That night the crowd began to gather. One by one, faces appeared, shopkeepers to ranch hands, even the preacher. Landon turned to them. "You all watched her hang. You let it happen. But now you are going to listen." He pointed to the mayor's boy. "She did steal a thing, he did, and when she said no, he lied. You all backed it." The mayor pushed through the crowd, red-faced, puffing. "You've got no authority here, Mercer." Landon held up the badge. "I don't need authority. I have got the truth, and I've got 30 people about to decide which side they're on." Silent. Then Elias, the old deputy, stepped forward, silently removing his hat, standing beside Lila. Then another man, then two more. Landon did. He smiled, just nodded once. He was there to punish. He was there to make damn sure nobody ever forgot. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge, it's about standing where no one else will. Lila looked up at Landon. Her eyes said everything. And that ass, when she asked the one question he hadn't, he expected before they left town that day. Landon walked up to the mayor's boy, looked him in the eye, not angry, just done. Then without a word he threw a single punch, clean, sharp, straight to the jaw. The boy dropped like a sack of grain. Nobody helped him up, and not a soul dared speak. That was the last word Landon needed. After that, he and Lila rode back to the cabin. Quiet road, quiet minds. The next morning Lila sat with her boots in the creek. The water flowed again, just a trickle, but steady, like something lost had started to return. She did speak much, but her eyes had changed. There was light again. Not fire, not fight, just peace. "You ever feel like you get a second shot at life?" she asked. Landon was chopping wood nearby. He looked up. "Every damn day." That afternoon, Layla repaired a porch board. Landon patched a hole in the roof. They didn't talk about justice or revenge or the town because some wounds need retelling. They just need time and steady hands. A week passed, then another. Landon caught himself smiling at nothing. Lila started humming when the wind picked up. It was to romance. It was to rescue. It was respect, quiet and earned. One evening, Lila watched the sun bleed over the hills. She turned to Landon. "Do you think folks like us ever get to write our own endings?" Landon sat beside her, took a long breath. "Maybe we don't get to write the beginning, but we sure as hell get to decide the last page. And maybe that's what this whole ride has been about. Not proving anyone wrong, just standing long enough to prove yourself right. So, let me ask you, who in your life needs a second chance? And what part of your story have you been too scared to finish? If this story gave you something to hold on to, partner, give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next ride. Out here, stories like these don't ever truly end.